Imagine trying to run a sprawling, multi-continental empire today without sending a single email. Like, no contracts, no printed legal codes, no digital ledgers, just absolutely no written records whatsoever.
I mean, for most of us, that sounds like a recipe for instant collapse, right? We just
Exactly.
equate permanence with the written word.
Exactly. We assume that if you want to build a lasting legacy, you have to write it down, copy it and store it in an archive.
Yeah, it's basically the foundation of how we understand civilization itself. We're always looking for that carved stone tablet or the dusty manuscript to tell us what actually happened.
Right, because the assumption is that ink and stone preserve the facts, while human memory is just, well, too fragile. But what if that assumption is entirely backward?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's exactly what we're getting into today.
Welcome to our 12th deep dive into the Lebor Clann Glas, which you probably know better as the Book of the Green Race series. Today, we're focusing exclusively on Book 32.
Right, the section called the Great Age of the Saracens, which covers roughly 580 to 718 CE.
Yeah, and the mission for this deep dive is to unpack an extraordinary and really an erased version of history. We're looking at the rebirth of the deep oral wisdom traditions of the Holy Bloodline.
And seeing this happen at scale in the Middle East for the first time is just fascinating. According to these sources, this alternative history is the missing link
It's a missing link to what, exactly?
to explaining how this faith and civilization built such a massive, lasting legacy so quickly. A legacy that honestly has been impossible to completely erase, even though official history seems to have tried.
It really shatters that modern narrative we've all been spoon-fed. The whole monolithic clash of civilizations where all Western and Eastern Christians united against the Islamic world.
Right, this text reveals something completely different. It details this profound alliance where Western Celtic Holy leaders and Saracen leaders actually united against the corrupt Eastern military empire.
It's wild to think about. I mean, have you ever felt just overwhelmed by the sheer amount of written information today? Imagine building a lasting empire specifically by rejecting the written word in favor of human memory and voice.
And that rejection starts in a very specific place.
Yeah.
If we look at the year 582 CE, the text introduces us to King Siones of the Saracens.
Okay, set the scene for us. He's just married Khadi of Persia, right?
Yeah, exactly. And one of his very first major decrees is honestly mind-blowing. He proclaims that the highest form of law must be auricular.
Meaning spoken, like exclusively spoken or recited.
Right, he literally bans written sacred laws, which, I mean, seems totally counterintuitive if you're trying to solidify a brand new empire.
Oh, absolutely. But there's a really specific reason why he does this, isn't there?
Yeah, he's reacting to the primary weapon of his enemy, the Eastern Military Empire. They control their territories by mass-producing dense written laws and texts.
Ah, so Seone saw vulnerability there.
A huge one. He believed that written words are too easily corrupted. He talked about these mercenary scribes and political thieves who could just alter a manuscript in the dead of night.
Because the general public couldn't read those dense texts anyway, right? So the empire could just tell them, hey, the law changed.
Exactly. It creates a middleman between the truth and the people. Siones argued that spoken truth, when it's sung and collectively memorized, retains its absolute integrity.
The Lebor Clann Glas actually has this beautiful poetic line about it, saying even a blind man can hear its dissonance.
I love that line. Because think about it. If someone tries to slip a false commandment into a sacred song, they have to change the rhythm or the rhyme.
Right, and the moment they sing it in the public square, the melody breaks. The whole community instantly knows it's a forgery.
It's an incredible defense mechanism against corruption.
But I'm going to push back a little here. Relying only on memory seems like playing a giant game of telephone. I mean, you whisper a complex concept into one person's ear, and 3 generations later, it's unrecognizable.
That is the obvious flaw, yeah.
How does an entire society not just lose the message? It's like relying on a blockchain, except the ledger is the collective memory of millions of people.
That's a great analogy. And that structural vulnerability is exactly what King Siones' son had to solve. The text calls his son Sophos the great prophet.
Okay, so how does Sophos fix the telephone game problem without just writing things down?
Through linguistic engineering, he introduces a brand new spoken language that is literally designed from the ground up to be incorruptible.
Wait, he engineered a completely new language.
Yeah, he develops Arabic, which is the origin of Arabic. And the Lebor Clann Glas gives us a very specific mechanical translation for Arabic. It translates to many small pegs of divine messages of truth.
Many small pegs, so like something interlocking.
Completely interlocking the grammar, the root consonants, the poetic meter, they all act like physical pegs holding a structure together.
Oh, wow. So if you try to alter a noun to change the meaning, what happens?
The surrounding verbs and adjectives physically won't fit the meter. The pegs clash. The recitation basically collapses in the speaker's mouth.
That is brilliant. It forces you to either recite the truth perfectly or sound like you're speaking total gibberish.
Right. So your blockchain analogy is perfect. The grammatical pegs of Arabic are the cryptography, and every citizen who hears the recitation is a node verifying the transaction.
That just blows my mind. So we have this unbreakable linguistic framework. But after Sionis dies around 587 CE, Sophos still has to establish the core tenets of the faith, right?
Exactly. And the text details this pivotal journey. Sophos travels to visit the priests of Al-Baka, which aligns with modern-day Mecca.
And their exchange is so symbolic of this whole oral philosophy. They don't hand him a sacred scroll or a book.
No. Instead, they anoint him with a necklace made of 13 polished black meteorite rocks.
Meteorites,
Yeah.
literally stones that fell from the sky.
It is the ultimate non-written symbol. I mean, a meteorite requires no inscription from a scribe. It's this undeniable, tangible link between heaven and earth.
Right. And wearing this heavy necklace, Sophos just retreats into the hills, embarking on this severe pilgrimage of fasting and prayer.
Yeah, the narrative describes a really grueling physical ordeal. He's stripping away his ego and bodily comforts until only the raw truth remains.
So when he finally comes back down to his people in Medina, he's wearing nothing but a simple pilgrim's robe and those 13 black meteorites. He doesn't have a cart full of law books.
No paper at all. And the revelation he delivers is shockingly simple. He defines Islam from the Holy tradition using 3 very specific physical concepts.
Let's break those down because they are so actionable.
Okay, so first, to be the rod of law of the Almighty. Second, to be the hand of the Almighty defending those laws. And third, to be the arm of the Almighty stretching out to help the poor and the sick.
Just think about how grounded that is compared to dense, abstract legal texts. The rod, the hand, the arm.
You don't need a law degree to interpret what stretching out an arm to the sick means, right?
Exactly. You just need your own physical body to understand the assignment. It's so accessible.
And to build on that physical foundation, Sophos introduces the specific recitations. These are the 144 Sufa.
Right, the Sufa. And these represent the profound aspects of the divine, the cycles of life and death, all that. But as the text lists out the structure of the 144 Sufa, there's this fascinating detail.
Oh, the genealogical connections, yes.
The recitations explicitly honor previous prophets, but they attach this very specific title to them. The text says, Hali Musa, Hali Yusuf.
Meaning Holly Moses and Holly Joseph.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also lists Holly Isa for Holly Jesus, and remarkably Holly Constantine for Holly Constantine.
Which is just wild to me. It's like watching a cinematic universe bring all the legacy characters together for an ensemble cast.
Yeah, it's a massive geopolitical statement.
Yeah.
They aren't saying this is a brand new religion trying to overwrite the past.
Right. They're explicitly linking themselves to a continuous ancient Holly bloodline.
And to protect that legacy, Sophos and his successor Cedos, who is also known as Abu Bakr Institute, an ironclad rule. Writing down a single verse of the 144 Sufa is considered a supreme blasphemy.
So it absolutely must live exclusively in the heart and the voice, because writing it down freezes it, right? Opens the door to those corrupt scribes again.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You have this beautifully engineered oral culture forming. But you can't just recite poetry when a hostile army is massing on your borders.
Right, and oral culture still has to survive in a very violent world. And the Lebor Clann Glas details this massive external threat from a Moor Samaritan leader named Zaboris.
Zaboris launches these devastating campaigns against Medina with tens of thousands of troops.
Which forces the Saracens to defend themselves. And this is where the text introduces the Darvish, or Dervish, warriors.
And their method of warfare is a direct extension of their oral culture.
Yeah, the sources describe them fighting in a state of frenzied possession. But it isn't just random chaos, is it?
Not at all. We have to look at the mechanics of this trance. It's achieved through the continuous rhythmic recitation of those grammatical pegs of Arabic.
So they internalize the meter of the 144 Sufa to such a degree that it overrides their conscious minds.
Exactly. The rhythmic chanting blocks out fear, and the instinct for self-preservation. They become living instruments of the recited law.
Which lets them execute these terrifyingly synchronized ambushes, eventually destroying Zaborus' army at the Battle of Badur.
And Zaborus is captured, which leads to his trial before Sophos. This trial really highlights the philosophical clash at the center of this history.
Because Zaborus makes it clear he's not just fighting for land. He explicitly states his hatred for the Holly's claim to be the exclusive divine messengers.
Right. And just to be absolutely clear to the listener, we are impartially reporting the highly specific framing of this source text here. We're not endorsing these viewpoints, just relaying the alternate history the text presents.
Exactly. And according to the text, Zaborus' faction aligns with the correct Eastern Empire. They embrace an ancient Roman religion labeled as Iudaism, and the text depicts them as invoking hidden gods, specifically Satan and Moloch.
Yeah, the text frames this as an existential opposition. Zaborus' faction opposes the Holly purely out of hatred for their transparent recited truth.
It's a stark binary the author is drawing. The open, memory-driven Saracens against an empire defined by hidden control.
So Zaborus is executed, the immediate threat is neutralized, and the empire is secured.
But securing an empire and scaling it are two completely different things.
Oh, totally. It's a monumental logistical nightmare.
Right. Because how do you function without written religious or administrative law when you're expanding across vast continents? How do you collect taxes or manage trade without written ledgers?
When Sophos passes the meteorite necklace to his son Cetos, making him the first Khalifa, or Caliph, Cetos has to build an architecture of administration based entirely on scheduled verbal synchronization.
Since you can't mail a document, you have to physically move the people.
Exactly. He creates this cascading system of gatherings. There are 3 distinct tiers. First is the Al-Shura.
Which is an annual council of consultation, right? Local emirs and judges meet to verbally align their memories on day-to-day administration.
Yeah. Then you have the second tier, the Al-Majis. This is a massive gathering held every 10 years. Key leaders from across the entire empire convene.
The logistics of that are just staggering. Writing for weeks or months just to ensure the grammatical pegs of Arabic haven't drifted in the outer provinces.
And the third tier is the Al-Majma. That's a century-defining assembly held every 100 years, dedicated to preserving the fundamental pillars of the original revelation.
It really is like a highly synchronized corporate governance structure. You've got your annual reviews, your decadal strategy offsites, and your massive centennial vision summits.
It's brilliant. And this alignment wasn't just about religious purity. It extended into their economic philosophy, largely centered at the House of Wisdom in Baghdad.
Yeah, let's talk about the House of Wisdom, because the economic laws derived from this oral tradition are radical.
The academy there was divided into 12 disciplines, synthesizing practical knowledge with oral tradition. And the text points out a truly radical economic stance.
Right. The Saracen Empire strictly equated demanding personal taxes to claiming ownership over a human being's physical body.
Think back to the 3 pillars: the rod, the hand, the arm. The physical body is sacred. So legally and spiritually, taxing a person's physical labor was defined as slavery.
That is huge. You cannot own another person's sweat. And they also instituted absolute caps on rent and tolls, right? Limiting it to 1/10 of a person's production.
Imagine the economic prosperity that fosters. If you're a farmer, knowing the government can't arbitrarily tax your labor and your landlord can only take 10%.
Your incentive to produce just goes through the roof. It's an economic system built on human sovereignty.
Which contrasts so sharply with the Eastern Empire's reliance on, a distant bureaucracy extracting maximum wealth.
So we have this prosperous, militarily strong, philosophically clear empire, which brings us to the climax of this deep dive.
The great historical whitewash.
Exactly. Standard history books tell us that Western Christendom and the Islamic world were locked in an inevitable death struggle, the whole clash of civilizations.
But the Lebor Clann Glas sources reveal that the Saracens and the Western Celtic Holly from places like Ireland and Francia were actually staunch allies.
And we see this clearly at the Ninth Almagis, that 10-year gathering held in Baghdad. Celtic Holly King Domnall Ucadia actually travels there in person.
Making that massive journey from Ireland all the way to the Middle East, he arrives specifically to ask for Saracen aid against the Eastern Empire of New Rome.
And the Saracens don't see him as an outsider. They recognize him as kin. They agree to send aid, honoring a sacred obligation to their Holly brethren.
This unity culminates in the year 800 CE, during the coronation of Charlemagne, referred to as Charles II in the text.
This scene is incredible. Charlemagne is crowned in Rome, and the supreme spiritual leader of Islam and the Saracen caliphs are literally in attendance.
Right there in the audience. And Charlemagne explicitly states that Western Christians and Saracens share the exact same Holly blood ancestry.
They recognize each other as equals and vow peace. It just begs the question, why is this so completely opposite to what we're taught about the Crusades and endless religious wars?
Well, according to the synthesis of these sources, that clash was a deliberate fabrication. The text claims the corrupt Eastern Empire used those same mercenary scribes to write a false history.
To divide humanity, basically, because a united Celtic and Saracen front, bound by oral truth and a rejection of economic slavery, was an existential threat to them.
Exactly. By inventing a history of eternal enmity, they hid the truth that good people have historically found common ground against corruption.
What an incredible journey today. A civilization that internalized their laws through poetry and an unbreakable oral tradition, finding common ground with their Western counterparts.
It really leaves us with a provocative thought to mull over. In our modern era, we outsource nearly all our memories to smartphones, hard drives, and the cloud.
We really do. We've built the ultimate empire of the written and digital word.
But if a catastrophic event wiped out our digital and written records tomorrow, what core truths of our civilization are actually written in our hearts and minds? If we lost our texts, would we lose who we are?
That is a heavy question to sit with. Maybe true permanence isn't in a server farm after all. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the narratives you've been taught, and we will see you next time.